Hi guys, it's Lanikia, and I am coming to you with season 1, episode 5 of Manifest, called Connecting Flights. Now, forgive me, I know anyways, y'all know how I be doing with these videos. But so we're gonna go right into it. So we go back to the family when they were on the connecting flight. So this is Grace, the mom, Ben and Kayla's mom, father, Olive. They're all on the connecting flights. So Grace and Michaela and Ben's mom sit down and talk, and she's just telling her that did the trip help? And so she tells her, I know a marital, when they're trying to save their marriage or whatever. And Grace said, yeah, she thinks the trip helped because it stopped them from thinking so, because they're, Cal is sick, or and so their whole world was just wrapped around his sickness. So it let them connect in a way, Grace and Ben, to try to work on their marriage and get it where it needs to be or whatever, or have not. So um then we see they get off the flight and everything, and so Olive is feeling like, I have to stay here, I want to be here when they get here. So they go and show her that it's going to be hours before they get there, and she sees on the flight it turns red beside the flight number, the 848, or I think that's what, 828. Anyways, it turns red, and it says see agent, and so they're like, what's going on? And so then Jared is with Lourdes and everything, and so they get the call to go over. They get the call from Michaela's mom to go over there and check on Michaela and the flight and everything. So they go over there, and so then we flashed forward, and so we flash forward, and they're all in the basement with Thomas. And Bethany is telling Thomas, I'm gonna get you out of here. Ben wants nothing to do with it. He's like, I don't care about the voices. I don't care about it being connected. I want nothing to do with this. I'm gonna fight it I'm gonna fight it. And Michaela is pretty much like, you can't fight this. And how do you know this is bad? It could be something good. Like, we're supposed to be doing good, because the two girls that were locked in that building, in the first episode, they would say that we do good or whatever. And so, but Ben is just determined not to have anything to do with it. And as he's walking out to leave Bethany, Thomas, and Michaela, he hears it's all connected. Now, Thomas is the Jamaican man that was on the plane that Bethany, the flight attendant, helped get on the plane. So he is a fugitive or whatever. So that's really one of the reasons Ben wants nothing to do with it, because he's like, we already have so much suspicion on us, and now we're gonna have a fugitive. No, I want nothing to do with it. Okay. So then we cut to Vance with the NSA, and Vance is like, where is John Doe? We need to find him, find out who he is, what's going on. We need to find what's happening. So Vance, someone comes into the office and speaks to Vance and says, hey, you'll find John Doe when you find Bethany, because she was connected to him being on that flight. So Jared refuses to roll. Like, they're talking to Jared, trying to get him to roll over on Michaela, and he's refusing to do it. And of course, Michaela walks up as the man leaves, and she's telling Jared, just roll over. Because remember last time she made them go in the building because she thought it was about the undercover detective, but it wasn't. It was about Thomas. And that was the last episode. So then Ben goes home, and he wants to spend the day with Cal and everything. And so he keeps hearing it's all connected. So he decides to let just fate decide. So he's like, we're going to flip a coin, and that's going to tell us where to go. So the coin tells them to go to Coney Island. So that's where they're going to go. So now Danny is trying to contact Grace because he wants to see. He tells her it's important or whatever, but she keeps blowing him off because she's committed to being with Ben. She's committed to making her marriage work with Ben. So then, oh, sorry. Okay. So then, okay. So Grace, then we get a flashback of Grace. So Grace is in the bed. It's after the flight had been missing, I think they said 6 months or something like that. The flight, maybe not even that long. Sorry. Maybe it was longer than that. But the flight had been missing for a while now. And so Grace is in bed, and she's pretty much like out of it. Like and so Michaela, excuse me, Olive comes in and she gives her a cup of noodles, and she tells her, and she's like, Grace is like, what happened to your hand? And she said, I tried to make cheese toast, I tried to make ham and cheese, and everything, but she cut her hand, and the bread, she got blood on the bread. They didn't have any more bread. The cheese had green, cheese was molded and stuff. And then so Grace, when she said, I made you a couple of noodles, I hope it's okay. So it's like Olive is having to take care of her mom. And so at that point, Grace is like, I gotta snap out of this. Like, I know I lost my husband and I know it's sad, but I have to snap out of this so that my child, so she can be okay for her child and everything. So then we see, I'm just gonna wrap this whole part up right here, so I don't have to keep coming back to, well, no, I'm not gonna do that. Okay. So that makes Grace get up and everything so that she could take care of Olive, because she really had she acted like she had lost everything, but she still had Olive who needed her to take care of her. But Olive had ended up taking care of Grace. So then we see that Ben and Cal are enjoying. So then we see Grace goes to a grief counseling for married couples who have lost someone, and there is where she first meets Danny. So that's where she meets Danny and everything, at the grief counseling center. Okay, so then we find out that leave it. So then we find out that Grace meets Danny there. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to pull it up. Ben and Cal are enjoying Coney Island, and he hears the voice again, and the voice is telling him it's all connected. So he's like, okay, we're gonna flip the coin again, whether they should go home or continue to enjoy their time at Coney Island. So he flips the coin, and the coin says go home. So he wants to take like a Uber or a taxi or something, and Cal is like, no, let's take the train. And so Cal takes off running. So they go on this adventure taking the train. So then we see Jared, Michaela goes over to Lourdes because she wants Lourdes to tell Jared not to risk his job for her. Little did she know that Jared hasn't even told Lourdes this. He hasn't told Lourdes anything that's going on. And of course she feels kind of bad about that. She was like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have came. And Lourdes was like, no, we're friends. Like, you're supposed to come to me. So that's that whole thing right there where Grace just didn't like, he's I don't know why he didn't tell Lourdes. I'm confused on why he didn't tell her, like, because I don't know, maybe he felt like if I tell her she'll get upset. I don't know, but he probably should have told her. But anyways, so we see how so then we see how Lourdes and Jared get together, and this is after Michaela had been gone, and they're at a bar, and he had just got promoted to detective and everything, and Lourdes went to support him, and she they just lean in and they kiss. She tells him, all you do is like work, and you don't have a life, and do something out of the box and everything. So he kisses her, and they don't regret it, and that's kind of how they got together. So then we go, it's still in the flashback, because that was a flashback between Lourdes and Jared. So we're still in the flashback. We see where Danny comes to dinner, and they're all Olive is upset about it, because she's like, that's your boyfriend. Like, don't sit here and try to act like he's your friend. I'm 12 years old. I'm not dumb. That's your boyfriend. So this was like, I guess 2.5 years after the flight had went missing, that she had invited Danny over to eat and everything. So Danny is sitting down and eating, and he talks to Olive, and she says she doesn't like meatloaf, and he says, well, why are you pretending to like it? And she tells him because her mother thinks she likes it, but it's actually Cal's favorite, not hers. And he says he doesn't like meatloaf, but he eats it because it makes her mother happy. It's like the nice thing to do or whatever. And so Olive gets upset. You know how teenagers are. She was dealing with a lot, so she gets upset and leaves, but she looks and she sees him happily eating the meatloaf because it makes her mother happy to see that. And so I guess they're trying to show us that a bond is starting to connect between Olive and Danny. Um, but didn't anybody find that weird that she didn't know her daughter didn't like meatloaf? I like how do you not know your child's like favorite food? Like I could get it if she got it confused, but at some point, how do you not know? But I don't know. So Bethany is trying to go to. She's with her wife, and she's leaving to go to this cabin where she's gonna take Thomas to hide. But as she's going. Detective Vance pulls up and he arrests her or whatever, so she doesn't get to Thomas. Um. So then she's arrested, and that's the end of that scene. So then we show that Cal just they're on the train, and Cal jumps off the train, and Daddy is like, Ben is like, Cal's like, what are you doing? No, don't go. And Cal just keeps running and running. Okay, I get it, it's a TV show, y'all, but was no one else frustrated like I was? Like, little boy, like, listen to your dad. Like, that was frustrating me to see that or whatever. Like, it would have been cooler if he would have been like, Dad, something is telling me to go this way. If he had said that, but him just taking off and his dad kept trying to get him to stop, that was annoying the crap out of me. Anyways. So they finally go. They go through all this tunnel and everything, and it lands them at the place where Thomas is. And Cal goes up to Thomas. He says, "Your name is Thomas." And Ben is like, "How do you know this?" And he was like, "I don't know. I just sensed it. I had a feeling." So then that's when Thomas and Ben realize that Cal, he might not hear the voices and everything, but he has a strong sense. So Thomas is like talking to Cal and everything. So now Ben is like 100% involved because he realizes that he's got to get to the bottom of this because it's affecting Cal as well. So Mick goes and sees her father and everything, and she's just telling him about Jared. Now her dad is telling her that he knows Jared's still in love with her, and he's telling her to fight for Jared, and she's like, he's married, and he was like, if your mother, if I came back and your mother was married, I would still fight for her. Which I understand what the daddy is saying, but Jared is a married man now, and even though Mick was supposed to be engaged with him or whatever, her situation is a little bit different than Ben's with Grace's, because Ben and Grace were married. Jared and Mick were just engaged, and she hadn't really gave a definite answer about saying yes. Plus, I don't like people like saying go after that married person. But anyways, that's just my little opinion about that. So then we have a flashback to when Jared came over to the house, and her mom had made an Afghan for him. And he was like, the dad was like, a single man doesn't need an Afghan. And she was like, he won't be single for long. And so he let him know about Lourdes. And the dad wasn't, like, if you look on the dad's face, he was not that pleased about it. And the mom, so when Jared left, the mom was like, they'll be good for each other. And he was like, he's still in love with Mick. And it was just like, it is what it is, because the mom, I guess, thought they were dead, because it had been a while. So that was that. So then Vance asks Bethany to tell what she knows about the Thomas, and Bethany refuses to tell, and he's like, if you go ahead and tell, we'll get you out of here, and you could go be with your wife. And she's like, nope, give me a lawyer or whatever. And so she's refusing to tell. So then we go to Grace, and Danny just shows up at the door, and we find out the reason Danny is trying to stay connected to her. He says he can lose. He lost his first wife, and he was okay with that. So he knows he'll be okay with losing Grace, but he says he can't lose Olive. Like, that's like a daughter to him. And so we see later on that he and Olive had become very close and everything. So, and that the reason why Olive was so pressured Grace to tell about Danny is because she felt like she has two fathers, and she feels like she has to choose. And Grace, I guess if Grace had been more like had been upfront to Ben about Danny, then she would have, I don't know what was gonna happen. Like, maybe if Grace had told Ben, hey, I have moved on, yeah, excuse me, that's just the phone. Maybe if she had told him, hey, I have moved on, then they would have been more open to. Olive wouldn't have had to choose between Ben and Danny. She would have had them both in her life. So that was that. And excuse this, y'all. I don't know who's calling. Um, So that's why Danny shows up, because he's like, I love Olive as like the daughter that I never have, so that I never had, So he doesn't want to lose her in his life. So it's not even. He's like, it ain't even about you, sis. It's about Olive. And so then we find that Jared was stripped of his. Jared refuses to roll on Michaela, so he's stripped of pay for 10 days, and he was like, "That's it." He was like, "See you fellas, because they were really trying to get him to roll, and you could look through the glass door that whatever was being told to those two gentlemen, those two detectives that were trying to get Jared to roll, they were not liking what they heard, but they were like, whatever. 10 days, you're docked 10 days pay, going about your business." So Jared gets into the hallway, and of course it's Vance, and he was like, I should have known somebody pulled strings for me. He was like, what do you want? And he was like, I want you to give up information on Michaela, where she goes, who she sees, who she talks to. And he was like, or what? And he was like, you're a smart man or whatever. So I guess he's gonna end up losing his job or something. Something will happen if Jared doesn't tell. So then Mick is going. Michaela goes to see Jared at the bar, and he's having a drink, and he tells her he only got suspended for like 10 days. And so after talking to her dad, she wants to tell him how she feels, that she's still in love with him. But Jared blew her off because he don't know what to do. He's in a tough situation, so he doesn't really know what to do. So he blew her. He didn't really want to talk to her at that moment because he's getting blackmailed pretty much because of her. So then we see. Then we go to back to Thomas, Ben, and Cal. And Cal is telling their dad, we gotta go, somebody's coming. And I don't know. Ben is like, what's going on? Like, Ben was getting on my nerves. And Cal just kept saying, we gotta get out of here, somebody's coming. And so then they were leaving or whatever, and then Cal stops and he says, no, she's here for good. And so they go to the door, and it was Bethany's wife, and she's there to take Thomas to safety because she says she knows that's what Bethany would do. And she's she got it all together with them, and she's like, don't, because remember earlier she told Bethany, don't use the easy tag, pay cash, sis, so they can't have any kind of trail or anything of you. So Bethany's wife is going to take Thomas to safety, and that's what's going to happen with Thomas, I guess. So then Jared goes home to Lourdes, and she's like, Michaela came by and she told me about your job. And he was like, I didn't want you, don't be upset or whatever. And she was like, I'm not mad that you're helping Michaela. That's our friend. It's all of us together. I'm not mad about that. What I'm upset about that is like, is that the only reason you're helping her? She's insecure because the love of his life has came back into his life, who happens to be her best friend. And so she's feeling insecure about her place. And so Jared tries to reassure her that everything's okay. But we all been seeing these episodes. Jared has been flirting with Michaela on the low. So, yeah, Lourdes, you should be insecure about the whole thing. But he comforts her and tells her it's nothing going on. It was just, he wanted to help her or whatever. And that was that. So then the end episode is kind of like them just, you know how they recap the episode, but without words. They kind of just show everybody doing what they show when Jared and Lourdes found out that the plane was back because it was their 3-year anniversary of their first kiss. They showed how Danny and Olive and Grace hugged because they knew it was over for them as a family, because the plane was back. So they showed all of this information, and then they showed the plane when Ben was asleep and Michaela was asleep, but Cal was up and he looked out and he saw a bright light because he saw something that reflected, and so he opened the windows up and he saw a bright light, and he says it's all connected. And that's how I went off, y'all. So that was this episode. They didn't have an episode this week, which I am glad because I get to catch up with them. Because I'm so far behind on everything else. But yeah, I like this episode because for a minute there, I was like, I don't know, but it seemed like this episode connected more than the last one. It kind of tied up the loose ends with Thomas. It tied up some loose ends on on Olive and Danny, that whole situation on why would she call Danny, and it tied up all those loose ends for me, so we could move forward, and it all makes more sense. And everything. The only thing about this is, and I'm gonna be honest, the only thing about this is that I wish everyone would be, well, I guess it wouldn't be that great of a show if they were, but I wish everyone would just be honest about their feelings. Like, Grace, say that you're still in love with Danny. Like, let Ben know, that you went away for 5 years. Like, it's not the same, because honestly, Grace started, being intimate with Ben again. Like, Danny just left that bed, and you were already intimate with Ben. And I get that was your husband, but 5.5 years had passed on. So say something. You know what? Does that make sense? Because if I were Danny, I'd be like, I just left your bed, and you already got Ben up in there. Like, I don't know. I don't like that part about it. And then with Michaela and Lourdes and Jared, it's like, just be honest, like Jared. Just like tell Lourdes, like, I'm still in love with Michaela, and Michaela, like, Lourdes, you gotta know he was still in love with her. And then Michaela telling Lourdes the last episode, oh, I was gonna tell him no. That's a lie. Like, why everyone's just lying to each other about their feelings, and you're making this whole situation way more complicated than it should be, or whatever. Because they got too much going on with the voices and everything. You're making this all way too complicated. So I don't know. We'll see what next episode is about. I'm gonna try to catch up on all those other shows too, because I still have not watched one episode of A Million Little Things, and I've heard so many good things about it, and I freaking love James Roday. But I still have not watched one episode. I need to catch up on This Is Us. Like, I'm so far behind because I've been trying to work and do this and do that, like all of you. And then when I do have time, the laziness kicks in, and I really need to try to overcome that. But so that's this episode of Manifest. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, and have a great night.